Hello and welcome to the discussion about the ePanic button default settings. When you first started out with us getting the trial, we set up some default settings that are most commonly used and also an easy way to help you test. There is a default group initially created, that all users will go into, and they have a series of buttons that all of those users will get. Each group has its own series or sets of buttons. And for this first default group, I have one user that I've created, and let's look at that person's buttons. We've created two default buttons. There's the yellow support button for low-level concerns, and then we have the red security button for higher level issues. And if we look at that, and if you can look down at the bottom right of my screen, there are the actual buttons that match. So this node is actually representing the laptop that I'm using right now. With any of the alerts, the pop-up flashing things, the receivers are going to be everybody else in the group. So when that button is pressed, whoever else is in that default group will get the message. But the sender, the person who sent the message, they will not get the message. Their own PC will not start beeping or flashing with the emergency message. Now, of course, you can change this later, but this is a really great way to get started with testing. Along with the alerts that are sent out, and by the way, that's the same for security and support for those default configurations, we also send out an email, and the default receiver for the email is the person I was originally discussing with. So whoever the contact was for the organization when I created the trial account, that's whose email I used for testing. But again, you can get in there, change anything you want to make it fit your needs. Now, one important part about the default settings is matching up the server to the client, meaning we're looking now at the server site where you set the buttons and things like that. Well, how does that reflect or match up with the client on the computer? That is done at reboot, or when they click refresh profile on the manual, or at the command check interval. So I've opened up the node settings, and this is a description of the different nodes. A very important issue is command check interval, meaning how often does the node check with the server to see if there's anything it needs to do, any new buttons, things like that. For the default settings, we have it set at 1 minute. This field right here is in minutes. So every minute it's checking to see if there's anything new, and that can really help out when you're testing a bunch of computers and you're installing a bunch and you want them to be updated frequently. However, once you have your settings and you've rolled it out, I suggest actually setting it at a much later interval. It doesn't need to check the server that often. In fact, to check it at every reboot, so you could set this at 1000 or 1440, and that means 24 hours. And then that means the program will check the server to see if there's any new buttons. Okay, we'll show some more videos explaining how the program works, but I just want to go over the original default settings. Thanks.